the 33rd and best episode of the Hashcast. And as always, I have a guest way more interesting and way cooler than myself. And tonight, I have the always fabulous Sabriel Mastin. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing very well. What an intro.
That is it. I've had 33 episodes to practice that, so there we are. It's getting hopefully better and better. That's why I say it's the best episode so far, because, you know, I'm getting more and more experience at this. Sabriel, how are you? How was your evening?
I'm doing very well. As we record this, I just finished playing Smash Brothers for about 4 or 5, maybe 6 hours.
Yeah, I guess that is the thing that happened this week. I have not bought it yet, and I have a very strange relationship with Smash, because I haven't really had a Nintendo system for quite some time. I had it on the Wii U. I didn't buy Smash. So every time I see the hype, in my mind it kind of passes me on because I'm not part of the ecosystem. But now I have a Switch, and I still am not bought into the ecosystem. So maybe this is the time that I'm gonna learn how to love Smash.
It's a tough one. Like, I haven't owned it since the Wii,
Mm-hmm.
but I have it for Wii U because a friend bought it and just left it with me.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough.
And then for Switch, I just went to my friend's place and I've been playing his copy.
Oh, yeah. Are you playing on the little tiny things, or do you have like, pro controllers?
Yeah, I use the Joy-Cons. They're fine.
Oh yeah, okay. Well,
He
we'll
likes
see.
the Pro controller,
Yeah?
but I'm not a pro.
No, me neither. And also they're super expensive, and you can't use your Wii U one.
Yes.
So I'm still a little mad about that. So we're already getting right into it, into your Smash habits right now. But for people who do not know who you are, because I've known you for a while, mostly online. We've met once or twice, I think, at PAX. Who are you, and what is it that you do in this fantastic industry?
Yeah, gosh, every time I answer that, I think I answer something different. But I am Sabriel Mastin. I am currently a content creator, social media support, and community manager for the website Overbuff, which is a stats site for the video game Overwatch.
Mm-hmm.
I also do freelance work, occasional writing, doing pitching, just writing articles for various websites, all video game related.
Yeah.
That's it in a nutshell right now. I have also hosted Open Division, which is a tournament for Overwatch.
Mm-hmm.
And I also do a thrice weekly Overwatch headlines, or Overwatch eSports headlines news show.
Okay.
I just cover the headlines of what's going on.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about Overwatch a lot, because you have a lot of explaining to do to me, because I'm not super plugged into Overwatch, but it's such a thing that I can't wait to talk to you about that. But I'm going to talk about you first, because you're deep into Overwatch. Like, you are deep. When I see your name pop up, it's almost like always connected to Overwatch and a bunch of other stuff, because I've seen you talk about a lot more than Overwatch as well. But how did you get into, like, it didn't start with Overwatch. Like, Overwatch is still relatively fresh, maybe not in internet terms, but it's relatively new. You've been around for quite some time. Like, how did you get how did you get your foot in the video game industry door?
I love this story because it all happened in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've been interested in games since before I could speak. I mean, I've been playing games on my parents' VIC-20, which is a modification of the Commodore 64.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
That's my first one too, the 64. So, like, we're not aging ourselves here.
No, not at all. No. But my most recent venture is back in 2013. I remember getting a direct message on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
This woman who runs the website Indie Gamer Chick, her name was Kathy, and she basically, in short, said, "Hey, you're opinionated. You should work for me."
Fair enough.
Yeah, and from there I started doing reviews for indie gaming, and from there I started going to. I started working for another indie game site called Indie Insider or something like that. Yeah. And then I started going to PAX East in particular, 2014. And there, meeting people, meeting media, all this stuff, and just absolutely falling in love with. I've always loved gaming, but to actually be able to talk about it and write about it, and for some strange reason, people actually didn't mind listening to what I said about gaming.
That's always the big shocker, right? It's like, oh, people are actually reading my stuff. People are listening to what I have to say. That's the best feeling, though, to be honest.
It's the best, and it's also like one day they're gonna realize I'm a fraud.
Yeah. Well, I love talking about imposter syndrome on this show because I am also a sufferer of the imposter syndrome. How like we casually mention it like as a joke, but it's a real thing. So how do you deal with that when you look at all the things you've done?
Oh
What makes you
gosh.
go in the end saying, okay, you know what? No, I am a professional and I am where I should be.
Something that helped me so much is roughly a year ago, I decided to finally redo my website, and I actually started a whole bibliography-ish, just documentation of every single thing I've done. And I'm like, wow, I've done a
Yeah.
lot. That really helped solidify what I've done. But of course, those feelings always creep back.
Mhm.
Like I mean, even this last week, like, why am I doing this little show that I do? Like, why? This is a
Yeah.
waste. And but then I do it. I'm like, I love this. This is the best thing ever. I love this show. But I look back at my achievements. I do have to update this. I think it's about 2 months out of date now. But
It's not too bad.
no. But going back and seeing everything there and having links to all of it really made cemented. Like, wow, okay, yeah, I seem to know what I'm doing, or at least I've done a lot of it. How about that?
Well, that's true, and I've seen you speak in person, and you are very knowledgeable, and I think you're one of the people who is doing their best to drive this industry forward, especially when we talk about inclusivity and all those things. That is to me another step up because it's one thing to write about the games, but then you as a person are getting involved in the industry at large. Like, what drives you there? Because it's not easy in today's internet world to put yourself out there and to plead for the greater cause.
Oh, I mean, it's not hard for me to tell this, but it's deep because I've told this story on other podcasts before. But my very first PAX panel back in 2015 was 1 year after I've ever gone to PAX, and all of a sudden I'm on a panel. It was why it's rad to be a woman in the games industry. And I'm sitting up here, imposter syndrome up the yin yang, because I have, like, as we're doing introductions, I have two people on my right and two people on my left telling, hi, I do this, that, this, I'm this, manager writing, like all this stuff. And I'm like, hi, I write about video games. That's about it. And I was pretty quiet for most of this panel. And then our moderator, he asked a question like, what's some difficulty you face in the games industry? And at this moment, I caught myself. I didn't realize I have been building up this pressure inside me. Wasn't even, this just kind of burst out where I started talking about being trans in the gaming industry. And I basically had a re-coming out in that moment. I'm sitting here crying on stage and having like 1,000 people cheer for you. Was pretty monumental. However, that's not even the thing. What was really got me and what really helps me every day, there was this one person came up after the panel, because it's common at these panels for people to come want to ask panelists questions and things like that. And everyone's going to these other people. I'm putting my stuff away and I look up and there's actually like a few people in front of me. I'm like, what? Why would you want to talk to me? What, again, still right here in the throw of it, having imposter syndrome. And a short little blonde person, like platinum blonde, red flannel, looks up at me with this huge beaming smile. And they just said, thank you for being visible in this space. And I wish I would have gotten their name. I usually I'm already starting to tear up a bit. But that person has no idea how much of an impact they've had on me. Basically, for them and every other single trans person who has come up to me and said, thank you for being visible. I do it for them. Yeah. I want the people I know, I want these people to have something I have barely had, and having, I don't necessarily mean I want to be a role model or a hero or anything like that. I just want them to see that there is someone here in the space similar to them. And that's why I do what I do. It's basically for them so they know that they're not alone.
Yeah. Well, first of all, that is fantastic. Second of all, I invite you here to like, hey, let's go talk about Overwatch. And here we are, we're 5 minutes in and we're like... but
yeah, sorry.
No, that's good. That's good. Maybe in one way or another we'll find that person. But maybe it's better that we don't. Like, keep the magic there.
Yeah, I've put the call out there for years now. Every year on Trans Day of Visibility or things like that, I bring it up, and still this person has not come forward. But if they ever do, I would love to meet you and like buy you 1,000,000 copies.
That is sweet. That is sweet. Well, that's great because like I like to talk about this stuff because like gaming is the thing that can connect us all. Like it's a love that we share, and it doesn't matter who you are, where you are. But there's still so much struggle when it comes to community and actually being part of it. So seeing you would do what you do and go through what you have to go through every now and then, because it's not always as friendly as that person after PAX coming up to you to say thank you, and still go through it. Like I think that is super special, and I think it's fantastic that you do that every day, and you're good at it too, so that helps. Like you make it look easy. But that's great. Like I'm so happy that we now 2018 we have people like yourself fighting the good fight for the people who need a champion like that. Because I'm just another like middle-aged white dude talking about video games. You know, there's literally 1 million of me, and people can just handpick what they like. For people like you, it's slightly different because, like you say, I don't want to be a role model, but you know that you are. So
that's not a goal. How about that?
That's not a goal. That's good. But those are the best role models, I think, right? That just do it naturally. Who are your role models in this? Because I have a lot of people that have mentored me and that I look up to and that I take a lot of inspiration from.
Oh my gosh. There's a few people.
Drop some names.
Yeah, I'm gonna name drop some folks here. One of a dear friend who's been a friend with me. She's been a huge supporter for me for all these years. Is a woman named. She goes by Gillyweed, or her name is JC Gluck. A lot of people who may know her as one of the former casters for Heroes of the Storm for the last few years. I've known her for years. She's been a huge support. So sometimes she will promote me, try to help me get out there, give me advice and whatnot like that. She's just a sweetheart, and we've just known each other for years, and I love her to death. Susan Arndt is a huge backbone, to like I think a ton of people. Like I love her to death. Always there to lend an ear, just be there. Oh gosh. And then my friend Tatiana, I butcher her last name, so
I'm not even gonna try.
But I first saw Tatiana at one of my very first PAX panels attending in 2014, and she actually had her own coming out at that one by accident. Not by accident, but she decided, okay, this is where I'm going to do it. And then a year later, I'm on a panel with her and had basically the same kind of moments. Like, okay, I'm just going to do it here.
That's great. I love her too. I need to get her on the show.
You should. She's amazing. We've worked together a number of times now, and I just love her to death. And those are a few. I mean, I could go on a long time. These are 3 people who...
Well, no, that's good. Three is good. Like I know 2 out of 3, so that's not bad. Susan is nice. She had a hand in my coming up as well here, as an editor at Games Radar back then. We did a panel at PAX last year together. She's just a wonderful person. Well known for her editing style, which is hilarious. This is garbage. Do better. It's one of the comments that I ever got. But it's good.
Love her.
It's good to have these people around and knowing that the influence that they have. I'm glad people call it out as well. Because sometimes it's being taken for granted that you just do what you do, and not like the person that came up to you after PAX that has such a huge impact, and you are like trickling that down as well in what you do now. So props to all those people helping you get where you are and where you are, because now we're gonna get into the geeky stuff. Overwatch. I need to know why Overwatch. With all the games that are out there, how did you get connected to Overwatch at this level? Because it's like not just loving Overwatch, you're like breathing it at this point.
Yeah, it's my it's my lifeblood. I go to sleep thinking about it, but I don't know if it's interesting, but it's a tale. It's a tale.
Yeah,
so in 2016, I was in this office job for 8 years, and I abhorred this job. It was awful. It was mindless, numbness. But it was paid the bills. I need to get out. And thankfully, I had the support of partners who like, we can take care of you.
Yeah.
So I took no goal, no other job in mind, and I was like, I'm just gonna quit this job. And they're like, you can do this. It's okay. So basically, I had a summer with no job, and well, this is the same time Overwatch was coming out.
Yeah.
I had been aware of this game, and I even played it at PAX in a very early version of it, and it was very interesting. I started watching. I started watching some weekly tournaments of people who were pretty good at the game, even in the beta. Here's what this was, and like, oh, this is pretty cool. I'm gonna get this game at launch, and I did, and it was just love at first sight. This game here, we have a fairly diverse cast of heroes. We have these heroes who are in roles that normally aren't there. Like we had like a big buff woman as a tank. Like this is not normal. We have a very queer-coded. Ended up being lesbian gal that was later on, and like, oh, this just really appealed to me, and the art style is amazing and gorgeous. Like, yeah. So then over that summer, I played it a bunch, and I'm in a bunch of gaming discords. And a gal was like, "Hey, we're looking for people to do our social media on this website, Overbuff." And I'm like, "Well, I use that website. I don't have a job. I'm gonna apply for this." And I got it.
That's sweet. That's good stuff. If anyone's listening, I'm also looking for social media jobs. So not yours, obviously, but you never know how it happens, right?
Right. And I'm like, I had never done social media before, other than I had a fairly decent following on my Twitter. And so from there, it's just been doing that and watching more and more eSports. I had always been partially interested in eSports since the StarCraft days, but Overwatch I just fell in love with. Like, here's this game I understand, and I understand what these pros are doing. Like, hey, this is cool. And God, it's just kind of like, I love it. Even on days where I'm playing Overwatch and nothing is going right, it's awful. I had one of those last night even. Worst days in Overwatch. Hour later, I'm back in playing it.
That's good. Everybody needs their Dragon's Dog, man. That's what I always say. But before we really dig into that, you mentioned a couple of things that I found interesting. You mentioned like the very diverse cast. Again, I have not a very diverse face. So pretty much 99% of the games that I play is someone who looks remotely like me, and maybe I can toggle if I'm playing with a man or a woman. How important is that when you first see that cast? Because I've had this conversation before, but with Tanya the Past, and she was like, "Yeah, there's still no black woman in Overwatch, so you know there's still room for improvement, but at least they're like trying." But when you see that for the first time, like I can barely understand the impact that would have. But how important is that when you?
Gosh, I mean, having used to be someone very similar to you until like 8 years ago. Being able to see yourself represented feels so good. You look at this, I don't know if you can put a picture of the Overwatch roster here, but like you have such a diverse cast and like no one looks alike. It's just all these options, like over almost every single hero that has been introduced since the game came out has been a woman. Which is amazing in itself. Just seeing, and I was just a hamster and a robot horse. But no black women, unfortunately. But opening up a game and seeing yourself represented by being able to see yourself and not seeing yourself as a stereotype. Instead of there's no like angry black woman hero. There's no like I'm trying now. Of course, I'm blanking on examples, but there are touches and nods to stereotypes, but it's not overbearing. Like I'm this role because I'm this person, kind of thing. And wonderful. I to someone who doesn't who wouldn't know what this feels like to see yourself represented in a game after so long. Oops, my screen's just went black because I haven't touched mine. Hopefully, you can still see me. Okay, good. It just feels so good. Like I can play this person and basically feel like I'm playing as me in the game.
It's such an. I love it about Overwatch because it's not the first time I hear that in that context. Cause I had Osama Dorius. He works for Warner Brothers, and he has a fantastic talk about Muslim representation in video games. And when he saw the level based on Iran, I think, like it devastated him to see like his culture, but not the worn, torn version that we get into video games constantly. It was beautiful. It was like well off, and he said that was such a huge experience for me. And I love that that's what I love about Overwatch, because like I said, I want Overwatch story, and I'll tell it later. But it seems its impact is everlasting in that regards, and I think that's pulling a lot of new people in. And then below that, there's actually a extremely well done shooter. So how do you fare there? Like, because it's one thing to love it that you can play, but if you get your teeth kicked in every time you go online, like you gotta be good at that game to really get something out of it.
So what's the question exactly?
Like, so I understand how you got drawn to Overwatch specifically, but then it also had to connect like on a gamer level that you actually do that. How does that work for you? Like,
because oh man, there are so many different play styles. We have like 28 heroes now, and most of them do not play alike at all. Which so with 28 heroes, there is a play style for you in this game. One that connected to me right away was the very first hero that came out after the initial release was Ana. She's a healer who sits at range and snipes her heals. Like, she shoots heal darts into her ally. Like, no other game has anything like this, so that really connected with me. And now there's one of the most recent heroes is Brigitte. She's a shield main. She has like basically short hair on one side. She has a shield and she has a mace. And like you just swing away. Like this really connects with me. But there are snipers. I'm like, this doesn't really draw to me, but some people it does. There's a hamster who runs around on a hamster wheel. I mean, like I can kind of get it, but it's not really me. But there is a play style for everybody. If there isn't yet, there will be soon.
They keep going. So here's my experience with Overwatch. I played the beta, and I dropped into someone's game. I think I was playing with Andrea, and I was wrecking. I was doing super well. I had like 15 kill streak. I was like, wow, I'm really good at this game. And then the game ends, and I see like everybody going, good game, good game, good game. But then I realized they were the names of the actual characters. So we were playing bots, like, so which obviously means that I wasn't good at all. And then I went on to the real game, and then I didn't do so well because I like the bow guy Hanzo, which makes me a terrible person apparently. So then after the beta ended, I had the idea, okay, I've seen it all, because when it went to launch, it was basically the beta, but you could just play it longer. How do they keep, other than the new heroes, because maybe that's enough, but maybe you can explain it to me, and for everybody who is not into Overwatch, like how do they keep players coming back? What has changed since then that keeps it interesting for you?
Oh gosh, what keeps it interesting for me? One of the biggest things for me is just having a game where I can play with 5 other friends or up to 5 other friends. It's much more fun, even with one other friend, because you're just playing together. I mean, a lot of these games are, but it's a team-based objective. So your friends do well, you're doing well, and if you can work with each other, that just really draws me in. Is like you boost each other, you're doing great for each other, and when you work well and mesh well, things go well. That's one big draw. Other than just the I've always had an interest in first-person shooters. Like you have to like first-person shooters to play this game for the most part. So that definitely helps, even though some of the heroes are not shooter people, like Brigitte I mentioned earlier, who just has a mace. She has no range attack. And I mean, while the game in this last year, as we record this, has not had much lore added to the game, just the lore itself keeps me interested in it, and I love the game. They put so many little interactions between the heroes. Voice lines that just kind of fill this world up, and it's just so fascinating. I love these little moments. I've been playing for 2.5 years almost nonstop, and I still hear things I've never heard before.
That is pretty cool, because even I am aware of the lore. Like I am aware of the characters. I know pretty much, if I see a picture, I probably know their name and have probably seen backstory, because first of all, those are amazingly produced, like those videos they put out every now and then. But for me, when I'm not involved, I'm like, okay, but listen, hear me out. I think, like, why do you still play this? But I've been playing Destiny nonstop, Destiny 2, because that is my experience. Like you said, like you can play with my friends, and we do raids and all that stuff. But it's not as competitive. Like, if you would be terrible at this game, even if there's like a billion playstyles or 28. What is the skill ramp to enjoyment in this game? Like, how good do you have to be to keep coming back?
I have seen people, but all skill level. Usually, the higher people are, I see more complaining about the game.
Yeah.
Because they're not having fun. Like I was just reading this post the other day where person is at the lowest tier in the competitive mode, but he says his games are usually stress free because everyone's like very excited when one good play goes well, or just little minor things like that where people get excited for the little things. Like it sounds like such a positive experience, even though you're at the lowest level. I mean, obviously, it depends on how you look at the game as well. If you are just going in there to have fun, hang out with your friends, you don't care as much when you lose.
No.
I mean, sure, of course it feels good to win.
Obviously.
But yeah, but if you're playing with people at your skill level, which the game is pretty good at balancing that, as long as you're not grouped up to break it intentionally. You know, the games are pretty balanced and it's fun.
That's good. That's good. I love it. I love it when people are like super into something, even though I'm not super into anything. So here you are. You're living, breathing Overwatch. You actually like the game. You love it. Then one step up, eSports, because that is something entirely new as well, something different. How did you get involved in that? Like I understand that how you through the overbuff things, but eSports also has to kind of be in your blood to really get into that kind of stuff too. So where does that come from? That competitive edge?
Yeah, I first started watching I've never really been into traditional sports. So which is really weird telling myself I'm a sports reporter. I never would have believed it. But when I was little. But I started watching StarCraft 2 esports a few years ago. Like, this is really interesting watching these people make these big plays and whatnot. And then some of my interest in Overwatch was watching people who were decent at the game playing in tournaments. Like, oh, this is kind of neat to see. And I've watched some of these players progress from this. People who are probably at my skill level now, but in the 2 years since, they have turned into the pro players who play for the Overwatch League. But it's once I started seeing myself like cheering for teams, getting excited for these players I've been watching for a while, I'm like, hey, I'm watching a sport. I'm enjoying myself, and I'm cheering these guys on. And that is just, and I mean, I get into it, and like I can see their strategies, what they're doing, and like it's just like, okay, I'm getting this. This is fun, and now I have a sport of my own to actually get into now. Like this is what it's like to watch these traditional sports.
But that's awesome because it is true. Like I am from the Netherlands, and we like breathe soccer. It's a huge deal, especially for large tournaments. But I have also never really been into the sport. Like I didn't support a club, even though my whole family was like for one club, Feyenoord. If you're listening from the Netherlands, I'm sorry if it's no longer a big thing. But then my grandfather, he took me to a game because it was in the late stage of his life. He was in a wheelchair, so he got to sit up front, like all the way almost on the field. And he brought me to a game for the first time. And then when you see that, and you kind of, it's such a huge thing, and you start cheering for your team, even though you might not know everybody yet. And it's such an experience. And for a lot of people like us who have been in video games for a long time, traditionally not super into the traditional sports, like you say. And now we have eSports, which is on ESPN and the big channels, and we get to cheer for teams that we know. But that feeling is unique, I think. Like cheering for a team or a group that you support. And I love it that we have that now. And I think it helps maybe relate to the people who have been in traditional sports. I don't think it relates the other side yet.
Not yet, no, but
but it's a start. It's a start. And I like the only when I see it, I'll watch. But when it's like League of Legends, I have just no idea what's going on. So I don't really enjoy it. I can see Overwatch probably the plays a little bit, but I watched the World Championships of Street Fighter V, and I was like, well, there's really literally nothing else on. I'm gonna watch this, and then 10 minutes in, I'm like, holy shit, this is awesome. And like I said, it's such an experience. That is just unique. And I love it that it's getting bigger. Because there's so many people who can now openly enjoy this. And you still see the tweets like, oh, what's this on ESPN? They're playing video games.
Yeah.
So like the other side still has to approach the aisle a little bit, I think, on this. But we see better more and more now. And now we have Sonic Fox winning.
That was so cool.
That was at the Game Awards. Gotta love the guy. I had no idea who that was until he came. Like I kind of heard in the background about him, but I never seen one of his streams or I just knew of him. But watching him stand there, it was fantastic, and that is a great representation. And I've seen him go off on Twitter all day today, and it was fantastic as well. But I love it. I love that esports is doing that for people now.
Yeah, going to a live event makes it so much even better.
Yeah.
Because you have, like you said, you get the crowd going. Like going to the Burbank or the Blizzard Arena in Burbank last winter, going to see that and just watching the game played live. I've watched Overwatch live, being played live at 3 BlizzCons now, and just the people getting so into it and cheering for your team, cheering for your country. It's so exciting. It's so exciting. That's how esports should be.
Yeah. How close are we to Overwatch Hooligans? I'm not sure if you're familiar with the concept of Hooligans, but in Europe, like we beat each other up because you're not cheering for the right team.
Oh,
like, that's a huge thing.
Okay, no. I think we're a long way from that because like, well, you give playful ribbings online, but I was just teasing my friend last night about a player who was transferring. Ha ha ha! He's gone. I'm like, oh man, yeah. Or I love London Spitfire, and people are like, why are you going for this British team when you're in the middle of North Dakota? But
that is funny. Yeah. No. Maybe it's for the better that we don't actually start beating each other up. And this is hilarious. This is one of my favorite stories. When I moved from Netherlands to Canada, so I'm very used. When you go to a soccer game in the Netherlands, they have fences everywhere. If you're on one team, you support with one team, you sit on that side of the stadium. The other side is on the other, and there's fences. There's like military police to keep these guys away from each other. Otherwise, they will fight. So I came to Canada, and my wife takes me to a hockey game, the Ottawa Senators against the Philadelphia Flyers. So I have my Senators shirt on because I was in Ottawa, and one of my wife's friends comes, and she's a Philly fan, and she's wearing her Philadelphia jersey. So I'm like,
of course.
So where's she gonna sit? She's like, well, she's gonna sit with us. It's like, no, they can't just put her like in our part. And I was like, are you out of your mind? It was like, she's gonna get killed. She was like, no, man, this is Canada. We just cheer for our team, and maybe someone throws a little popcorn at her when they score a goal. Like, that is hilarious. But that's esports now. We're at Canadian level of politeness. Hopefully, we'll never make it to European levels of livelihood, because that would be terrible.
Oh gosh, I hope not. I hope that never comes to Overwatch or esports.
No. Probably not. We'll probably keep it safe with you behind the wheels of the social media on that kind of stuff.
We don't have the muscles.
Maybe. You never know. No, we throw our shit online, I guess.
I kid.
Look at these guns. Dear Lord.
That's right.
So when I hear you talk about your community, it's fairly positive. Overwatch community has not had that reputation for a while. Is it better now? Like, I think it was less than a year ago where it got to the point where... Oh,
no. I mean, it's all over the place. Yeah. I've never seen it to the point of like League of Legends levels or reputation of a toxicity. But I mean, all these games have this, especially when you're in an environment where, I mean, you're being competitive. People just tempers, your adrenaline gets going, endorphins, all that jazz.
Yeah.
You want to vent and release, and some people are just very bad at coping.
That's true. Yeah.
Ways I've helped fix that is playing with friends a lot.
Yeah.
Being in parts of communities. I'm in basically, I don't want to say a guild, but a group of women who only female identified people are allowed in the clan. So we play with each other.
Yeah.
We talk with each other and things like that. Making our own communities. And so when we have to go out there and play with the rest of the world who are terrible people, it's not quite so bad.
Yeah.
And still almost weekly I have a thing where Blizzard tells you if they do some kind of action on a report of yours. And so I report every single person who's cursing up a storm, who's being sexist, who's being racist, and it happens. It sucks. But my reports help make it that much better. Blizzard has said, like, we don't want those people here. So let us know.
Yeah, well, that's good. And because you're kind of on the front lines when you're also running a social media account for Overpuff.
I get called dude there all the time. It sucks.
Yeah.
They don't have a face, or they haven't followed long enough. I put my picture on there before, but They're like, "Oh, thanks, dude. Thanks, bro." And I will just reply with the picture from Lord of the Rings, where I'm like, "I am no man."
That is good. That is a good gift to have in your back pocket. But yeah, no, I'm glad to hear it's at least a little bit and that there's. It just sucks that you need a workaround, to have that full experience. But maybe we're slightly pushing into the right direction. I think like I said earlier, like the Game Awards this year was, I think, a good step. Maybe they did a lot of good stuff.
I did not watch the Game Awards
No,
this year. For the most part, all award ceremonies, I don't care about them unless I've been invited,
Fair enough.
am been nominated, or am presenting.
Fair enough. Yeah. Well, I watched it because I run a parody account to make fun of the awards all night. So
Nice.
we'll do that. But it was good. It was better than before. And they should invite you next time, even though you're like up north. Like
Oh yeah,
beyond the wall.
up here with the Great Night North with you there.
We don't get to go to the cool stuff unless it's out of pocket. That's too bad for us. But it's good. Like here's a question I have for you. You're doing all this cool stuff. You're doing what you love. You're reporting on a game that you love. It's your job now, right? So you're paying the bills doing this. How does that feel? Because you mentioned before, like you were miserable at your old job. So do you ever have those moments that you're like, holy shit, this is my life now. This is how I pay the bills?
I haven't really thought about it that way before, but you're right. Yeah. I mean, when we were little, the joke was there's even a Gary Larson cartoon out there was like making fun of like, yeah, right. There's no when we were little, there's no video game jobs. No. Like, this is gonna be a waste of your time saving the princess and all this jazz. And like, here I am 30 years later. Writing about video games as a sports journalist. Yeah. What?
Yeah.
I hadn't really thought about it that way before, though.
So,
no.
If your younger self would look at everything you've accomplished now, everything who you are right now, would it blow your teenage self's mind?
Oh, absolutely. One, you're a woman.
Yeah. First of all,
we wanted this all your life. But two, you do what now? You talk about video games and you get paid for it? I mean, it's not the life of luxury like a lot of people think. I mean, you have to work pretty hard to get some livable wage. Yeah. But yeah, still, I'm doing what I love. I absolutely love this job. I love talking about it. I love working with it. I love talking with others about it. Yeah. And like waking up to have that feeling of like I don't hate my job is such a wonderful feeling. But I mean, there is something lost when gaming is your job. Yeah. When you are playing these games to cover them. Like, there's that, am I playing this enough? Am I playing this other game too much? Why am I playing this game that I'm not going to get paid for? Yeah. Things like that. I mean, there is pressure. Or am I doing an interesting article? Does anyone want to read this? Like, will I get paid for this thing? I mean, it's stressful. I know, like, if I tell someone I work in the video game industry or I review games, like, oh, you have the coolest job. You get to play video games all day. And I just said it gets stressful. Yeah. Like, should I go out? What if there's news? Yeah. Like, in my life, I have to plan around 1 p.m. Central is when Blizzard usually releases new content. So, like, I make sure I'm home at that time every Tuesday or Thursday, basically.
Yeah, well, that's fair. It's kind of what moved me out of covering, like, news, video game news, and, like, reviews. Because I've never been super big on reviews, because games for me is always a different experience. Like, I have trouble saying this is a good game, like technically maybe, but how I rate games for me, if I would ask me like top 10 this year, it's about which games made an impact. Like Celeste for me was like the best game. Like, I'm still thinking about that game, but even though I've played God of War, Spider-Man, like all those great games, I do not think about those games anymore. So
once you're done with them, you're done with them.
It's fine. So not having to play those games and put a number on it I love it. I'd rather do this, what I do right now, where I get to talk to interesting people about the game industry or what it takes, to be in it, to make it tick. But I can feel you how that must be tough, because you are now so into this game, but it's also your job, which is kind of cool. Mm-hmm. But I think, do you have a side game that you play, like to get out of your system?
I'm forcing myself to do that more and more. I mean, one of my most relaxing games I play a lot, I have hundreds of hours in, is Cities Skylines.
Okay.
It's one of my favorite games. It's a city sim. I've loved city sim since I've got SimCity on my Super Nintendo years and years. Um, I started, I like the Civilization games. Zelda's a big series for me, and things like that. Or let's see, RTS games. I just got this one called Northgard for PC. It's a Viking heathen themed RTS. It's fun like that. But so yeah, I mean, I just got my Switch. Holidays came up. I love puzzle games.
Okay.
Dr. Mario, Tetris, all this jazz. Those are my main jams. But other than that, like I don't have a main game I focus on. I just like, what am I feeling right now? City Skylines to relax or things like that.
Yeah, you should clearly try Dragon's Dogma because it's a game that everybody should play. And it's totally, but I'm not sure if you would be super. But you should be because it's the best game in the world. But it's good. So you've accomplished so many things, and like we talked about, like imposter syndrome. Like you are here for a reason. I think you're very good at what you do. I've seen you in action. I've seen you writing. But this can't be it for you. Like there has to be a step up. Like where are we gonna see you next? Like what's the great plan for you?
I have two paths that I would be happy with. I mentioned like I've hosted for something called the Open Division, which is the tier 3 lowest level of tournament level for Overwatch. We'll be doing it now, but I just couldn't commit to it this season. I love being on camera. I love doing that work. Also something I never would have seen myself doing 10 years ago. You like talking in front of people? No. So I would love to see myself on the big screen in some way talking about Overwatch. Be an analyst, being a host. I've done the hosting a bit, and I don't really feel like it's my jam, but I might try casting, which is the play-by-play analysis or things like that. I've toyed with that a little bit here and there, but no one has seen that much publicly intentionally yet. But I also really like writing about games or talking about it in either video or written format as well. So that's why I have my thrice weekly show where I just sit here and talk the headlines. Or I still want to do a talking head show about Overwatch. So I have two paths. Basically, on camera is typically what I would prefer. But then it could be either in the actual esports itself or just talking about it in written or video format. It's a hard one for me because, like I said, I have those two paths, and it's hard to focus on one. When I mean, okay, I'm not gonna lie. Like when I'm 36 here, I'm not a young, pretty chick talking about Overwatch. It's harder. It's harder. It's like that was one of the reasons I kind of fell behind on hosting is because I have all these beautiful young women who are very talented as well, but they just have more appeal, and I understand that. It kind of sucks. It's kind of hard. Plus, you have a trans woman here, me doing it, which is even scarier for companies. Oh gosh, are we going to bring ourselves all this hate if we do this? So I mean, it kind of had a coming to me moment a few months ago. Like, is this really something? While I enjoy it, is this something I want to do? So I don't see myself hosting anymore, but I would like to do something else in some capacity somewhere where I get to just talk more about this and get paid more for it at a higher level.
Is it? You think it's gonna stay games because you're getting all those experiences in what you do? Ever consider like taking this to a completely different industry where it might be less of a barrier?
I mean, like, I'm not into too many traditional sports, but I could learn to love them.
You have no idea like how many sports are that you think nobody watches, but they have like this giant following. Like try curling. You might be like the
I love curling. Curling so much fun.
Showcaster coming from the Overwatch community. You never know.
But no, it's true. And even with my appreciation of esports, I have gained more appreciation in other sports. Like even watching American football or things like that. I'm like, okay, I can understand why this is exciting. I mean, I've always been able to watch those things, but really get into it, and then the next level, I can understand it more. And it's like I can see myself getting into that, or even other esports. I mean, sure, Overwatch is my jam now, but Rocket League's interesting. I suck at it terribly.
Oh, God, I can't even.
Yeah. Like Dota 2 is interesting to me, even though I have little interest in playing it. Heroes of the Storm, another great game that I will play a little bit here, but I mean, I could go into other gaming industries easy. Another completely unrelated gaming thing. I mean, I could do it if someone thought I was cool enough to do this and talk about it. Like, sure, I'd really deeply consider it.
It's something I worry about for all of us. And I mean, everyone who is involved in the industry right now, because your relevance as a person in this industry is so fleeting. Like for everybody, like for some maybe more. Like again, me, I can grow into this and be 50, and people might still think I am an authority on anything. For women in generally, it's less like that. Like you suffer from that maybe more, but for most of the tier that I operate in, like we're gonna be phased out at some point. And I always worry, like, what is gonna be next for all those people who have given it their everything into getting into this industry? Like, what's the backup?
You know, I don't think you'll be as phased out as much as you think, because gamers are aging.
That is true.
And we like to hear about gaming from people who are similar to us. I think we are in a special group. Where we are getting older with the gamers as well. And sure, I'll be doing like, hey, we're doing gaming at 50, gaming at 40, things like that. I think we have something unique. Maybe it will not be as popular as like Galler guy who talks about, hey, Call of Duty 83 here, talking about our jam.
It's your boy. Wow, that was not planned.
But I think we have an audience as niche as it may become as we get older. I think our voices will still be heard by someone.
That's true. I did not consider that. I should, because I am now fully dad mode, and I see the stuff that people react to is different now as well. Because there are so many people like me that are playing in a completely different lifestyle, where they sneak in like 2 hours from 9 to 11 when everybody's sleeping in the house. So I think you're right.
Or like when we record podcasts.
Exactly.
The kids
like
are
it's
asleep.
the podcast slot where everybody else has gone bad. But I think you're right. I think we are in a unique space, maybe, where we've gotten the experience now, and we're not the new group of people coming into this industry who have a very specific audience. Like, I think we get to keep our own audience. I think that's a good point. I did not consider that. But so you think we're good for gaming for the next 20 years? Because we don't know what's going to be next. Let's be honest. We didn't see Overwatch coming. We didn't see eSports coming even 10 years ago, maybe. So
as big as it is anyway. Like, it's been there for a long time, but to this level, no.
Like Fortnite tournaments where they give like away $14 million. It's nuts. It's nuts. And I see my nephews now, they're like 8 and 10, and they grow up on this stuff. And like, he wants to be a pro gamer. I was like, no. Don't try to be the next Ninja. Like, cover games. Then at least you have something to fall back on, at least.
Multiple things. But you know what? Video games are allowing more of that opportunity. If you want to be, when you were little and you wanted to be some baseball star, like, you had very limited opportunities for that.
That's true.
And now you have all these different games that allow for multiple players. You have a better chance, or these tournaments that are homegrown or whatever, to get yourself up. Whereas traditional sports, I mean, you have an opportunity, but you have to be exceptionally good. When if you're just pretty good, you can get to a decent level. I mean, it's not going to pay your wages, but maybe something or pay your lifestyle, but it's something where you can enjoy it and maybe make a few extra bucks on the side.
Yeah, that's true. I think there's a bright future ahead when it comes to the industry. I think we're going through some growing pains right now, maybe, especially when it comes to who is allowed in the space according to the space. But you think it's getting better? Like, I see people like you putting all this effort, and I think we're pushing it forward. Being in it, is it getting better? Is it?
Oh, I think so. Absolutely. I mean, there's always going to be terrible people. Watching my language for, I don't know how your podcast is rated, but
I think we're good. I just have to flag something.
Okay, go beep. No, but like, there's some absolutely terrible people out there, but you know that the fact that we are getting their attention means they are scared that their life is changing. Like, I have to accept all these people who want something similar, and don't understand why these people want what I've had. But no, gaming is getting better. I've met so many amazing people. No matter how they identify, on all spectrums, I've learned so much in these last 4 or 5 years. I've really gotten into gaming. I mean, sure, it probably would have happened even if I didn't start writing about it, but to a different degree. And this has been some of the best 5 years, 6 years of my life. All the people and all the advancements we've gone. Yeah, it sucks sometimes. It really blows sometimes, but I think it's getting better. Slowly but surely, we will drag these people kicking and screaming into a better reality.
What's the one thing that what's going to help the cause? And again, I keep myself always as an experience because we get a fraction of the bad stuff. Like, how can we participate in making this better? How can we help? Like, I don't want to use the word ally too much because it often doesn't mean enough, I think. But like, how can we do better? Other than like, I like calling it out when you see it.
Well, that's a good answer. I mean, calling out the crap when you see it is good. On Twitter, it's going to be varying levels, but also just amplifying the voices of people who don't have the same range. Like retweeting the person of color's article, their thoughts. Don't go in there jumping in the conversation yourself. Like, well, I as a white person feel that you should do. Like, no, just amplify their voices. Listen to what they're saying. Oh my god, we talked about Tanya before. I love Tanya, and I just like every single little thing. She's like, yes, and I don't think I could ever express how much her alone has helped me, let alone all the other people that I've met online, hearing their experiences and doing what you can to help everybody else be visible. We've had the white person perspective, particularly the white male perspective, forever. And it's not that it's not important. It's just that other people have not had their voice heard very much at all for the rest of their lives, like for all of their lives. And it's slowly getting better. Or maybe it's just because I'm in a little bubble where I surround myself with these voices. But I think it's slowly getting better. Not as fast as I would like, but getting there.
Well, that's good. Because here's the thing that I sometimes struggle with when it comes to discourse on the internet.
Oh, your audio stopped. I cannot hear you anymore.
I'm sorry. Can you still hear me?
Oh, there we go.
I think I leaned back a little bit too far, getting really into on my soapbox here. Here's what I sometimes struggle with. Sometimes it's easy to dunk on a bad take. Like when you see something saying so ridiculous and stupid, we amplify that by retweeting with comment. But at the same, like I still struggle with this because sometimes I feel like I have my friend John on the show, Mr. Negative, and he said like I do that constantly to let people know that they are not alone, that there are people there willing to fight for them. At the same time, I also understand the idea of like we're amplifying a voice, we're giving egg face number 359 with 2 followers the reach of tens of thousands when we're all dogpiling on this person who otherwise would not have been heard. I still don't have the answer to that, but like, what is your take on it? This is just really me trying to find something out.
No, because I've been aware of this too, and I know this year I've made an active effort to not retweet these terrible takes unless it's something I like really need to comment on. Like I know I've gotten a little lax on that in the last month or two, but because like no, these people don't need my voice amplifying their terrible takes, and if no one hears them, they're just speaking into the void. But if I just amplify, hey everyone, look at this person being terrible, all of a sudden everyone sees someone being terrible, and here I am spreading the badness and making people's lives angrier that much. And so I've intentionally, sometimes I still have to get a word in there, I made an active effort to not amplify these voices intentionally because I do not want people knowing that I don't want these people getting more reach for being terrible. I just don't want that.
Does it still feel good though when you see a super bad take being dunked on by the entire industry? Like, does it give you a feeling of like, okay, at least these people have my back?
I mean, that's great too. like this person's really wrong, and you can hope on some degree that person will be like, I mean, it's probably exceedingly rare.
Yeah.
But I have read a handful of stories of people going, "Oh, I was a total jerk," or "Sadly, I was a total jerk when I was younger." When they realize when they get older, but sometimes that can get through to them. They have a bad take.
Yeah, that's true. I think everyone should, at some point, like every 5 years or so, should be confronted with their internet history. Because we all grow. Like I was a dumbass online as well when I was a kid. Like a couple years ago. Still, my wife's like, "Ha!"
No. I will admit, there wasn't a term for it yet, but back in the late 2010 or the knots, like 2009-10, Blizzard was going to force everyone to use their real name on their account.
I remember this,
And that caused such a huge uproar. And without thinking about it, I'm like, well, we should get their names and see how they like it. And thankfully, I had some sense, and a friend's like, you should take that down immediately. I'm like, yeah, I was a young dumbass. But I was angry too, and I understand that anger and wanting to get this rageful comment out. And thankfully it was not the right thing, and it has been deleted because I very much against that. But I was young and didn't understand the world as much either.
Yeah. Do you think like the people that make our lives miserable sometimes in our communities, are they going to grow out of it? Is it just a phase that like almost everybody goes through when we get online for the first time?
Some, as I mentioned just a moment ago, like some people like, I was an idiot when I was younger. Like I was a dumbass when I was 20. I can tell you that myself. Like I was but I mean, I think most people will grow out of it. Unfortunately, it should not be a case where they need to grow out of anything. But a lot of it is people who have inexperience with the world, how this works. Talking to people of different genders, of different races, of different identities. It's like, this is a whole new world that I have being forced upon me by the internet. And hopefully as we get older, I know a number of wonderful teens who understand this because I play Dungeons and Dragons with them and whatever like that. And they see the world from their perspective and they're like very accepting of a lot of things that when I was a little young, everyone's like, oh, that's so gay, and everything like that. And things that were seen as okay, quotes, to anyone listening, to do are not now at all. Nope. And I think the world is slowly turning for the better in that regard. It's just slower than I would like.
Yeah, that's fair. I guess it doesn't help when you have someone on the top who doesn't understand what he's talking about all the time. No, I'm in Canada, so it's only we're from the sidelines, literally from the sidelines. Looking at this all, but maybe we'll swing back into the right direction after. We'll have to see. But I'm glad there's people like yourself who are at least pushing it forward a little bit, like moving the hands of the clock. But it's fantastic. It's so interesting to hear you talk about this stuff because, like, even I need this perspective from things I do not always understand. And like I said, we've all been dumbasses before, but as long as we're growing, then we can make this.
As long as you acknowledge that, like, I have done terrible things before and that I have changed.
And I think like that's the thing that sometimes not bothers me, but I see that we sometimes get too militant about that. About like, yes, we have grown, but I think people need the opportunity and be allowed to have that growth, because it's easy to to read your own stuff and you're cringy, but it's still out there, right? And if someone else does it, then like you still have to take that accountability for it. And I think we're seeing a lot of stuff this week, even with Kevin Hart stepping down from the Oscars for old stuff with his non-apology. But it's tough. Like online, man. Like I am very glad that I was not a teenager like those when the internet just started. Like we didn't have a footprint yet. It was just like typing into the void in the chat box somewhere. But dear Lord, like if you're young, if you're and you're listening to this, thank you. Like be aware that like you're gonna fucking hate yourself 10 years from now if you keep doing this. Even if you're a good kid, like you're probably still gonna cringe your eyeballs out when you look at certain stuff.
Yeah, a lot of it has to do with your upbringing. Like I was, in all intents or all respects, like a good kid when I was younger. But I also was in a very small bubble of living in a town who had 7,700 people, and it was 99% white. So growing up in that, you have a lot of people who have varying opinions on people who are not white.
Yeah.
Like we were half hour from a Native American reservation. There was lots of things said by those people, or basically any people of color up there. My grandpa, Democrat through and through, was still racist towards Obama, even though he voted for him and supported him in every way. Like, when you grow up in that environment, sometimes your world is small until you get out into the world and you can become a better person. It sucks that happens, but it is the way with some people.
We'll see. And it's true, like, you experience the world, and I think that's maybe the beauty now, that it is easy to get exposed. And I've told this story before, maybe even on this show. When I got involved in the video game industry, I got in touch with a lot of people that I would have never been in touch with. Like, I live in a small community of like 7,000 people, 99% white. But my friend circle is all married, straight, white people. Like, those are the people I interact with. And then I started being a participant in the video game industry. And all of a sudden, I'm talking to people of color, I'm talking to transgender people, people with disabilities. And I get all these like views that I should have been exposed to like long time ago. But it just doesn't happen. Like, you don't always have control of it. Like, it's hard to expect from a young person to actively go look for those views when you just have no idea what you're talking about, right?
Sometimes they just don't know what they don't know.
Exactly, yeah.
They don't know, they don't get these voices.
And that's what I love so much about the industry that we both operate in. Like, first of all, the diversity there is huge. Like, when I go to a PAX and I go to the speakers, diversity is huge there. Like, we're trying to get them over. It's there's still like 50% of me, and then like the rest is divided through all the other for all the other people. Maybe that's even too little. But all these things that are being talked about in our industry so openly, I love it about the video game. And maybe every industry has it. I don't know. I'm not involved in the group. So when you are a participant, even from the other side, like you're just playing games, I always recommend looking a little further where this all comes from. Like, look at behind the scenes of who's working on these games, who is making this industry run, and they'll run into people like you, they'll run into people like Tanya, and I think you get this more appreciation of how everything works. So I want to thank you for doing what you do, putting yourself out there, and coming on my show and to talk about this stuff to both of my listeners. I mean, it's and one of them is on the couch behind my screen. It's my wife. And hi, Mom. But no, I think it's fantastic. So I'm so glad that I got to know you a little better tonight as well, because we Twitter, but that isn't really the same thing. But I always end my show on a segment I call Podcast and Shill, where we've been podcasting and now it's time to shill. So we know who you are. Your name has been on the screen this whole time, but people might be listening to this. So where can we find you, and what would you love to plug that we all need to go check out?
Okay, so usually I used to start this off saying, go to my Twitter, and I would start spelling it out and realize I spelled it wrong. So I made it much easier. And just go to the website sabriel.me, SABRIEL.me. And that has a link to every single little thing I do online. All my socials, my portfolio, my Instagram of all my pictures. You can see me in all my amazing glory. There, just go to sabriel.me, and that will bring you to a Twitter. I'm very active on Twitter, mostly about Overwatch. And if you're not interested in Overwatch, you can just mute the word #Overwatch, and you'll see all my other things about like talking about queerness, talking about trans, talking about whatever else I'm playing or music I'm listening to. I just all over the place. So go there.
That's good.
Go there.
Yeah, I always love seeing your tweets fly by. And anything you want to promote? Anything coming up? Are you speaking anywhere, or anything specific you want to put the spotlight on?
I have a little break right now, but I'm hoping to. I will be at PAX East 2019 already. Oh my gosh!
Yeah, I know.
6th PAX. Yeah. Wow. I will be doing. Whether they like it or not, I will be on panels or doing panels again, because that's basically every year since. So watch for me at PAX East. I would love to go to more PAXs. Yeah. But that's my next big thing coming up, I guess.
All right, that's awesome. We'll check that out. So sabriel.me, and go see all the good things. I'll link that in the episode wherever I can, because I'm not really good at that yet. production people.
Production.
Yeah, but that's awesome. I hope I'll make it out to PAX East. I do not know for sure. I cannot make that commitment right now, but we'll see. I'd love to. I have an idea for a panel, and I think it would be great. But I'm not sure when that deadline is to put it.
They haven't even started submissions yet.
That's
so
true.
Don't worry.
We got plenty of time. So I also have to show for myself, because I have to do that. Otherwise, people don't know where to find me. Even though you're already listening, I am the Hashtagonist, and you can find me on Twitter or pretty much all the channels on there. The Hashtagonist, where the O is a 0. I have to unfortunately point it out for your listeners. You can see it on my screen. And I do this show every week, and every week I have an interesting guest to talk about everything that I want to know and that is interesting in the industry and in their lives. As tonight I had Sabriel Mastin. Thank you so much for being on the show. And if you're still listening to me rambling out this show, thank you so much for checking in. And next week I'm going to have a great episode for you as well, where we're going to have Steven Spawn, the global gaming citizen, will be on the show, and I can't wait to talk to him as well. So I won't keep you any longer. Have a good night, and we'll talk soon.